everyone, welcome back to my channel. I do hope you've had an awesome week, and today's tutorial is a very exciting one because we finally reached the stage where we are going to be doing our portrait. It's going to be quite in depth and we may not finish the entire portrait today, but we will certainly get through quite a bit of it. I'll be explaining to you the process and guiding you through each area bit by bit. So let's dive in. Rearrange my stuff here so that we can see what it is that we are doing. So let's have a look at this gorgeous portrait. This is off of UnSplash. These photographs are for our use. You do not have to pay for them. They are free of charge, and there are numerous portraiture photographs on there. You can practice endlessly on eyes and ears and noses and mouths. It's just an absolutely amazing site. It's free on Apple. I'm not sure about Android, but do have a look, do explore it, and see what you can find. You may find a different free photo reference site for Android that Apple don't have, or Apple may have to pay for. Right, so let's dive into this portrait. There are many ways of drawing portraits. There's many different, how can I sort of put it to you, many artists with many different processes and many different ways of drawing the head, the structure, getting to all the different areas of the face. For me, I like to dive straight in. I find that measuring with my pencil helps me, and there is another way that one can also check measurements, which is purely by folding the photograph in half and checking different areas of your work once you have laid the actual basic drawing down. So let's get started. We're going to look at this. We're going to break this down. We're going to have a look, and we're going to see that her entire head, from the top of her hair down to her chin, is a pencil and that much. That is the measurement. So if we were to put that onto our paper, we start up here, make a mark up there, and we go one down. This is where we get to. This is the entire length of that head. So let's just double check those measurements and make sure that I have that correct. Yes, I do. It was to the top of that piece of hair. Then if we look at it and we measure, we see that from the chin to the bottom of the nose is more or less that measurement. So let's get that in. There's the bottom of the nose. If we look from the bottom of the nose to the middle of the eyebrows, we get that measurement, which is more or less the same as what we just got now. If we measure that, it's just slightly less than what the measurement is from the bottom of the nose to the middle of the eyebrows. Now, these measurements do change from person to person, obviously depending on how long a person's nose is, how short their chins are, etc., etc. Okay, but this lady has got a very, very good balanced facial features, which most of us don't have. Most of us have one side slightly irregular to the other side, but I've chosen her because of her beautiful features. Not only that, but also the shadow on the one side of her face too, and her lovely hairstyle. If we were to measure from the nose up, you can see that the edge of the nose is in line with the tear duct. Now that is on most facial portraits, all of us. The edge of our nose generally matches the edge of the tear duct. If we look at the edge of the lips, it generally goes to the middle of the iris, and you can see here that that's to the middle of the iris. This one is slightly less. I think her face is slightly looking slightly over, but you can see that it's more or less the same sort of distance. People's eyebrows, the distance between the eye and the eyebrow does change as well. because obviously the eye is in the socket here inside the skull, and depending on how big or how small that socket is depends on where the eyebrow falls. You can see that she's got a lovely lip. You can see that she's got a lovely lip line. Goes down, it turns up slightly on the edge. There's a bit of a shadow there. This side is in shadow. You can see this smiling crease from her nose down to her mouth, and how pretty that is as well. If we look at her eye, we can see that her eyelid, her top eyelid, is quite close to her eyelashes, and her bottom lid, which is obviously stagnant, or not stagnant should I say, only really moves when one smiles. There's a bit of a gap between her iris and the lower lid, or where her eyelashes start. On this side you can clearly see the beautiful shape of the eyeball. Eyeballs obviously are round, we all know that, and we're going to be exploring that as we did with the eye, to make sure that we get that beautiful roundness of the eyeball. She's got lovely light reflections here. This side, light reflection there, but there is a very, very slightly light area on this side, and she has this sort of tear duct in this area in shadow, plus up around here. Generally, the top of the eyelid, you can see here, there's a bit of light. There's light on top of the eyelid, and on the lip, the bottom of the lip catches the light as well. The top of the lip, you can see, is in more shadow than what the bottom of the lip is. A similar thing happens on the eyes. The lid, the top lid catches the light, the lower lid sits in a little bit of shadow. Her eyebrows don't look even, but I don't know if that is just because we have so much shadow on this side, and perhaps it's creating more of a shadow under the eyebrow than what we can see on this side. But we are going to be drawing this exactly as we see it, and that we'll have to put in, because that is what is on the actual photograph. This side of her nose, the entrance of her nose is obscured by the shadow that goes across to the side of her nose there, whereas this side it isn't. You can clearly see the opening of the nose there. We've got very, very subtle shadows coming down the side of the nose, going outside onto the cheek. And there's a highlight on the edge of the nose on both sides. You can see the highlight runs up through more or less the center of her nose up to that eyebrow that seems to be slightly wider than the left-hand one. Then we have the actual hairline, which is so pretty. Goes up and around. She's got a few flicks that come down across here. We will be drawing this, but do not be intimidated by any of this that I'm showing you, because I'll show you how we will get that effect. And she's got a little bit of a shadow here, which I think is mainly from the hair. She's got the shadow comes down, and this is what we will be looking at. We'll be looking at these shapes. We'll be looking at these shadows, at these shapes, more than looking at what we are actually drawing. Remember, we draw shapes, we don't draw eyes, we're drawing a shape. And that takes away the intimidation of the fact that you are drawing an eye. Right, so let's get started. So we've measured that out. So this is to the bottom of the nose, this is the bottom of the chin. Let's measure from the bottom of the chin to the bottom of the lip. We've got that measurement, and then let's measure that lip distance, which is about that much. Put that in, and then to the top, and I forget what that is called, that piece that sits below the nose, and I did say I was going to find the name of it, and of course I haven't. So forgive me for not remembering what it is called, but I do know that there is a name for it. That's the middle to the middle of the eyebrows. So we have quite nice points here that we can start drawing on. If we go from the middle of the eyebrow, from about here to where the hair starts, which is probably the top of the forehead, we are sitting there. So let's begin. Let's start by putting in the nose shadow, and we're just drawing this very, very loosely. I have my 2H as I've told you before. It's what I always start with, and it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. This is just laying down the foundation of the actual portrait. So just go slowly, one little bit at a time, and we will slowly get this portrait down on this paper. You must ask me, please ask me questions if you need to. There is a comment section, and please hit like on my channel, because it does help grow my audience, which obviously helps me produce more videos and more tutorials. So please do hit like. Here's the mouth. We're going to get those little points in. We'll do the eyes first, because we want to get that mouth. If we look at this mouth, we can see that the distance of the mouth from that corner to that corner is about that. So if we get that down, we'll know more or less where the eyes, the irises start. Okay, so let's go straight up, and let's get the tear ducts in place. So if we look at that, if we're on the middle of the eye, from there to there, we've measured that distance, which is from there to there. And if we look at the distance down from that middle part to the tear duct, we get about that much. So you can see that I'm already off. And this is why these measurements are so good. I must just tell you that your brain does trick you into thinking that things are a lot longer or a lot bigger. And you can see that the nose is a lot shorter than what I started off with. So let's just get this going. And as I said to you, please do not be intimidated by this. Let's measure the eye. So if we are going from the tear duct to the outer edge of the eye, it's about here. Do not be intimidated by this. We're going to do this slowly, and you will see that it goes through an ugly stage. Everything does, and by the time we've finished it, you'll be amazed at what we have achieved. If I measure that iris, it comes down about here. I haven't measured it to the bottom of the lid. I've measured the actual iris itself, and I'll tell you now why I've done that. Because the actual bottom lid is white, or has a highlight, and we don't want to interfere with that. We want that highlight. So let's just get this top lid in. Quite a small top lid in comparison to some eyes that I have drawn. And then her iris is quite nice and large, so let's just get that in. Comes around here. We've got a little bit of light here. We don't want to lose that. We've got quite a bit of shadow here underneath that eye. This whole part here is in shadow. Let's take it up into there. Her hair comes down. Let's just get that marking in. Go across the top of her eye. And this shadow comes down and around into this tear duct. Right. You can see that as I'm going, I am making slight adjustments, and that is exactly what we do when we draw. That's what's so beautiful about drawing. And we have this light highlight. She's got the edge of her iris. You can see the edge of her iris is black, and this highlight comes across and down and into it. We don't want to lose that. Okay, so we can color this in, or should I say shade this in, my word. Shade this in. This part of the eyelid, I have it too rounded and too up. It actually goes like this, and that is in shade, so that is fine. Right, so we have started the first part of our portrait. I can see here that I have this incorrectly done. So I'm going to rub that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line across here. So I'm going to put in her eyebrow. And that is just a shape. Don't worry about that shape. And then I'm going to bring this down. And it goes over there. I'm a bit worried about the length of this nose, if I have this correct or not. That is to the middle of her. Yes, I do. Okay, so her nostril is just way, way too big where that I had it. So let me just put that shadow back in. Bring that down across that piece of the nostril. That is that part that goes down onto the lips. Across. The top of these lips are absolutely stunning. I mean, I'm sure you can see in the picture, but they really are a lovely, lovely shape. And then the bottom of this lip comes down and it almost disappears on this side where you can see that the shadow, so that it looks as if it's disappeared, but it actually hasn't. It is all just the shadow. And then there's a shadow underneath here that we can put in. Okay, so we have the iris, and we have the highlight, we have the shadow that comes round and down, corner of the eye, there's always a shadow here. We have a shadow that comes down here, and we have the shadow that goes underneath the eye as well. So at the moment this is looking a bit peculiar. I do know that, I am fully aware of it, but we shall use our blender, we shall add and subtract until we get to a acceptable looking portrait. It's a nice highlight on that side of her face, of her nose I mean. And this comes round and up, comes down. And now we're going to work on the other side of the face, and you can see, if I show you, that it's generally one eye apart. So humans are generally one eye ball, or one full eye distance, whereas animals are a little bit different to what human eyes are. So I'm just going to take my blending stick and I'm just going to blend this in so it can look a little bit better. The eyebrow in. The shadow in. Remember, we don't want to lose that white highlight. Yeah, it is dark on that side. And then it comes down here. It's already starting to look a little bit better. I'm sure that you will all agree. It's carrying a little bit of the graphite into this area here, because although that is much, much darker, that is not a white area. Okay, let's do the nose. Take it all the way down the side. This is very, very subtle on this side. It hardly even looks like there is any shading there, but there is. Let's do the lips. I'm not liking my lips at all, I have to tell you. They look far too fat. comparison to hers. I almost feel like the top lips are far out of perspective to the bottom lip, so I will change that as we go along. Let's take some highlights out. I lost that, so I just want to bring that back in. Makes a big difference to the portrait. Just take that up. Here we go. And I want to take this highlight out. This nose has got a highlight over here and on this side of the nostril, just so that it can start looking a bit more like a nose. Get that shape correct. Get that out of there. Comes in like that on this top lid. We need to get that back again. Okay, so I think we're getting somewhere. These lips are really driving me mad. I'm going to have to change them. I think it's just purely this distance here that I've failed to, yeah, that looks a whole lot better. Just that distance. So that distance is not good. This distance here is quite large. So I'll just leave that as it is. But that does look a whole lot better. So I get the shadow in the correct place. Sorry if I'm mumbling. It's when I start focusing that I start mumbling, and I do apologize. I do know that I do that. We do have these creases, which everybody has in their lips. We can put that in just to put in a little bit of detail. Make sure that I have this correctly proportioned. Is more what I'm worried about than anything else. This you can sort of, what we call sort of scumble with your blender, because it isn't a straight line. Comes out down and under her lip like that, and that we can neaten up at a later stage. Just want to get that a little bit more detailed and more in proportion. Yeah, that does look so much better, I think. I hope so. Okay, let's put the other eye in. So this eye is pretty clear, pretty open. There's hardly any shadow in it whatsoever. So let's get that distance. There we go. We want to make sure that we get the top of the eye the same in line. And we will measure that distance to the bottom. And the only reason why we're measuring this differently to the other one is because we've just measured that whole eye, and we want to get a similar, the proportions correctly laid out on them, so that we don't end up with two different eyes. Here you can see the top lid quite plainly. It does an arc around the back here, to the eyelashes. See that? And we've got this bottom lid that is has a fair amount of light on it. Let's get that shadow in, let's get that shadow in. And let's get this iris in. So the one thing that everybody battles with, I battle with it too, funny enough, is getting the actual person looking at you. So I can get one eye looking one way, the other eye looking the other way. And I've been called out by, particularly on this one Facebook site, drawing site, and this lady who is helpful, obviously helpful, and she says to me that she studies eyes and that I have one eye looking one way and the other eye looking the other way. And the part of me that, the naughty part of me wants to go back to her and say to her, oh, you know, look, I just want to let you know, but this person does have a lazy eye. And I'm so tempted to go back and say that to her, because, you know, obviously for her, that people's eyes don't look like that. But there could be someone with a lazy eye, right? And they could be looking in two different directions or slightly in two different directions. So I just want you to bear that in mind when you are drawing, that it is not easy. And one of the reasons why I chose this particular model was because we don't have any really black irises that we need to put in. Pupils that we need to put in. We just have irises. So that does make it a whole lot easier for us. But on this eye, you can see that definitely looks like more or less of an iris than what the other eye looks like. So we're just going to shade that in just slightly deeper than the other one. And yeah, I mean, if you want to, we can put slightly deeper here on that eye. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And we're now going to use our blender. Blend around here. As I said to you, there's hardly any shadow on this eye. It's quite beautiful. So we can get that in. I have drawn these eyes very, very big. But she does have beautiful big eyes, so I don't think it's too badly out of proportion. Putting that shadow in there, this shadow in here, this shadow on the side of the eye. I'm hoping that you can see this eye, the shadow here, shadow here. This is a lot of this is from the actual bottom lashes that I do know, but you can see the shadow there. There's a shadow around her iris there, and there's a shadow in here. So that's what I'm busy with at the moment. This comes around. Those eyelashes go out. Just want to clean this up on the top. And then we can put her eyebrow in. We're going to use the blending stump to put this eyebrow in, because as I said to you, this eyebrow is a lot thinner than the other one. Oh, and I've got it in the wrong place. Quite difficult to get the position right when the one is so different to the other one. So let me try again. Comes around here. It's probably better shape, I would say. Definitely. We have that little bit of shadow on that side. Right. So now we've got more or less the basics in of the face. I'm still not happy with the mouth. I still think that the mouth is completely out of proportion, so I am going to bring this top lip down. I'm hoping that it doesn't change the proportion too much. I'm probably going to have to bring the nose down too because of what I'm doing here. But I do feel that I have the mouth completely out of proportion. Just bringing that back up, that looks better. Let's bring this nose down here a little bit. And that immediately, that does look better, I have to say. Right, so we have the basics of the face. And while they are not 100% perfect, I do know that, I will admit to it, because I can see that they aren't. All that I want you to know is that you've gone on freehand. And I want you to also know that you have been measuring with your pencils, and this is how you practice, and this is how you end up with really good facial features when you do other portraits later on. So do not be put off if you don't have great how can I say, measurements, or you feel that something is out, because mine is out. I can see that from a mile away. But I'm going to continue working on it. I'm not going to get hung up on it. I think that we can salvage this, and I think that we can definitely work with it. And I will definitely be working with this, that's for sure. We'll just put in some of her hair. She's got loose strands here, which are lovely. And I mean, you can more or less do whatever you like here, because she does have all of these loose strands that come down. Shadow over here. This hair that comes here does cover her ear, so we don't need to draw her ears in. You can see a little bit of her lower ear here on this side, in line with the nose, which is normal. And her hair goes out into this pixie style from that side. She's got quite a rounded jaw, so it comes at an angle, goes round, and then it comes down into the bottom of her chin here. So we can try and get that look. Sort of starts evening out around the edge of her mouth. There's a nice little shadow on this side. So I'll put that in, and then her neck does that. Okay, so let's go on to a 2B, and let's start getting detail in on those eyes. Oh, my pencil is so sharp. I don't like it when my pencils are this sharp. It's one of the reasons why I prefer these to mechanical, because I prefer working with the side of my pencil. As you all know, just feel that it gives such an amazing advantage to your drawing. There, I've gone too far. I just want to pull this back here a bit. Don't worry that it pulls out your initial oh, wrong pencil, my apologies. Pulls out your initial blending, because we'll just blend straight back in there again. Just want to get this in here. This is nice and dark where the tear duct is. And it goes up into this part of the lid. And this section here is nice and dark. goes up into there. So that's what I want to get done. We have that highlight, which we don't want to lose. And we have this part of her iris. You can actually see it through that highlight. It really is lovely. Okay, let's blend. Keeping mindful of where these deeper, darker shadows are. Can make this a bit darker, and this a bit darker down here. This definitely goes up and around, so I just want to take that out. Make sure that I get that, and then I want to blend this further into here, because there's a very, very small piece of white showing over there. This comes up into there. So as I said to you, we are drawing what we see. So I'll get this outline down. This is a very, very sharp outline, which is quite nice. Comes down and around into this shadow here. Just want to get that down. This is quite a sharp line here too. So I want to get that done. And then I want to put some more. I'm going to go onto my 4B. To lay down some more, a deeper, darker shadow here. That's what we need. Remember, be careful not to lose that piece of white. It's a nice dark line here where her eyelashes. Okay, so we don't want to lose that light. We just got to make sure that we don't lose that light. That light comes down here, across there, and down here. There we go. And we can put in bit of a darker shadow here, sort of giving an idea of her iris. We wanted to get this shadow in because you can see that the reflection here is much lighter. So we want to get that shadow in, being very, very careful. There we go. Shadow goes up, goes into there. So it's definitely dark on this side. Excuse me. I just don't want to lose those highlights. Forgive me. Coughing, something has caught in my throat. It's a very, very definite line there. I just want to take a little bit of white out here for the bottom lid. There we go. And I want to emphasize this here because I feel that this is really important. This round part here over eye, because that will just make it pop as far as the highlight goes. Okay, so we've done one eye. And we're not going to put in the eyelashes just yet because we might do a little bit more on it before we want to do that. So we're not going to put the eyelashes in just yet. But there is one eye. And I'm going to close off now because this is quite intense and leave it for you guys to catch up. And we shall continue with this in the next lesson. Enjoy it, and please ask me any questions that you feel you need to know. There is a comment section, and please make sure that you like the video if you have enjoyed this session. Until next week then, bye bye.